Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to Dr. Judy WTF, What the Freud. And tonight's topic is going to be about divorce prevention and mind mapping, a course correction on divorce prevention. So, if you are on the brink of a divorce, please know that we do a lot of couples counseling. And I invite you to, of course, always call in for a free consultation and request a free copy of your PDF, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, because there I break down the entire system gone wrong, which I'm going to talk about today in this divorce prevention mind mapping show. And for those of you who do not know anything about me and are tuning in for the first time, welcome, welcome. Please subscribe to the show and do request all the information so that you can have downloads of the book and know that I have a mind map video series that you can purchase. And this is a breakdown of the entire system as I'm going to describe today. And as most of you know, this is a call-in show. So please feel free to call in, and I would love to mind map your situation so that you don't end up in what I refer to panels 4, 5, 6, chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. So many people only come to my office at the brink of their breakdown. And why is that so? Because nobody wants to face the music of ugly defense mechanisms, ugly blueprinting that they inherited, or I should say, psycho inherited from their parents. Nobody really wants to take a look inside, and most people are really busy in panel number 4, 5, 6, defending themselves and breaking down and doing what I call the WTF, or the what the Freud, or the spin cycle of repeat uh, from multi generations of patterns and traumas and unhealed psychological traumas and psychological files that have not yet been processed and closed up, and then they reverberate in the relationship. So, what the Freud is going on, I'm going to start by saying that one of the mistakes of traditional therapy is to launch right into couples therapy without doing the individual work. And I say mistake because then what happens, and I've experienced this myself, I then become a referee to their mess. And that's not exactly the job that I signed up for, because my job is to heal human disconnect and get down to the root cause of the problem instead of being a micromanager of all these symptoms and breakdowns and chaos and just a lot of psychological mess. So when people choose, or rather when sometimes they don't choose, sometimes it's the woman dragging the husband into therapy, or vice versa, saying, if we don't get some help now, we are done, and doneer. And I hear this quite often in my treatment room. And I really respect people who dare walk into this mind map system for couples therapy, because they're in for a rough ride, and I'll qualify that. Rough ride by my definition means that we're going to go down deep into the root cause of the issue. We're going to go to childhood wounds that infect the marriage and have been infecting the person for several years, and unfortunately playing out in the battlefield of the marriage. And by rough ride, I mean that we dig in quickly and very, very directly into what sometimes takes months and years of therapy to get to, if at all, because traditional therapy usually does not focus on the cause unless it's psychoanalytic psychotherapy, in which case it takes many, many, many years sometimes to get to the root cause and play out all the transference, as they refer to it, all the feelings that transfer onto the therapist, and then reprocess it with the patient. And this is a very lengthy process. So at the Psychological Healing Center, we go right toward identifying childhood wounds, which there are 5 of, and then that extra one that I talk about, which I'll bring up. So the 5 childhood wounds are obviously the acts of commission and omission, what's been done to us and what has not been done for us. So these acts of commission are verbal abuse, physical, sexual abuse. These are the acts of commission, what was done to us. And then what was not done for us was emotional regulation and proper attachment and attunement and all of that, which is the emotional neglect. The other aspect that I want to also cover is smothering and spoiling. When you smother and spoil an individual, you basically arrest their development. And so instead of separating and individuating properly from their parent, they become dependent on the family system. They don't launch out, and then they don't become the best of their best of an adult self, and they just don't know how to negotiate a relationship. So over and over again, I let my couples know that what's really going on here is that their past plus their spouse's past commingle and then launch into a trigger of negative core beliefs that then set their partners on fire and create horrible reactions to include recapitulations of complex PTSD, which are very, very painful, unprocessed feelings stemming from childhood, reactivated in the marriage. And it becomes something that we at the Psychological Healing Center, we've got to dismantle the mess, because if it's not dismantled, it'll dismantle you. It'll dismantle the couple. And then that reverberates into effects on the children and so on and so forth. And this is a multi-generational problem. Excuse me, as many of you know, this is a multi-generational thing whereby your parents didn't heal and their other person's parents didn't heal. And then basically we've got a bunch of trickle down, unhealed, unprocessed feelings that now show up in the marriage, in the battlefield of the marriage, as I'm going to call it today. And this is a call-in show, everybody. So I'm happy to take calls and mind map your situation. And I want to keep it topic relevant. So please understand that if I keep it short, it's because I'm trying to psychoeducate all of you so that you can get the point and get the system. So let me break it down before I take calls so that you can understand what the Freud, this whole system is about, and how couples therapy works within the system. So if you would be so kind as to put the mind map up, I can explain better. And so you can see the mind map, and the first 3 panels represent the wounds of childhood, the reactions, and the encoding. They are, in essence, the past encodings. The middle section represents all the chaos and defenses and breakdowns that occur when the wounds of childhood are infecting the psyche, creating horrible reactions and encoding in a very, as I like to put it, unsustainable system. When you create an unsustainable system, you are bound to have breakdowns. There's just no 2 ways about it. It's sort of like building a building. If it's not foundationally correct, well, then what do you expect? And if the couple is not foundationally programmed from their parents, if they're not encoded foundationally healthily, then what more do you expect, or what less can you expect than a total acting out of chaos, acting out of defenses, or implosion of defenses? Some people implode, some people explode. And the point of the therapy is to unload and process the feelings so that they don't live within the person. And so without doing a individual therapy for the couple, it becomes a showdown and it becomes a big, chaotic mess. So, the way I like to work with couples and the staff likes to work with couples is to integrate individual therapy with couples therapy. So, what we do here is we'll look at the uh, one partner's childhood wounds and the other partner's childhood wounds, and then we discuss it so that they can understand each other's childhood wounds and develop empathy. When we get to panel number two, again, we're looking at people's reactions to the wounds because these reactions are painful, they're pre-verbal, they get activated in the marriage, and these activations regress people and trigger off very, very painful, complex PTSD emotions that were not resolved. And unfortunately, this is what gets activated in between couples is that these really, really horrible, painful feelings that you could see emerge in the therapeutic process. And sometimes they regress people to what I refer to as the little I, or the child self, the undeveloped, unprotected child within. And if both of the people are undergoing therapy, then they're on the same page and they can listen carefully to each other, share share empathically with each other their wounds, so they can begin to understand that they are not the cause of this mess. And they can begin to understand that by stepping into each other's shoes and seeing things from the other person's point of view, they can start to identify the patterns and not jump into being activated by the patterns. As I like to put it in the book, I make a statement that it's important with core beliefs, which I'll talk about next, because panel three is where all that garbage lands, all the garbage about your belief in yourself and the world, beliefs like I'm not good enough, I don't deserve to be loved, I don't deserve to have anybody have my back or protect me, I'm inadequate, I'm a stupid idiot. This list goes on and on and on. And this encoding, this DNA, as you can see, is my visual on the psychovirus. It's also a metaphor for the family system that's encoded. And it's also a metaphor for a structure that's supposed to occur that keeps the family safe, keeps the family contained, keeps the family system organized. And if this is not built properly, then chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. So, with couples therapy, it is extremely important not just to teach communication skills, which I do later on. It's really important not just to um, uh, uh, do techniques of cognitive behavioral or reprogram the cognition, because we're not looking to reprogram cognition. We're looking to process psychological poison, if you will, and allow each person in the relationship to clean out this poison so that they can eventually be in a place where they can reboot the system and create a clean slate. The defense mechanism that I left out here is the one that I want to delve into a little bit more, and it's called the narcissistic defense. And oftentimes couples come in because one complains that the other is a narcissist. Oh, you're a narcissist. I'm married to a narcissist. I've been on Google and YouTube and podcasts, and I've searched out, and I now know what narcissism is, and you're one. And oh my God, I'm married to one, and I've got to heal, or I've got to get out of here, or you've got to heal, or we've both got to heal and do something about this. And okay, so what is narcissism? From the mind map system point of view, narcissism is a system gone wrong where the parents have no empathy. They put their feelings before the feelings of their children, and it happens in very, very ugly ways, and it really can destroy the psyche of the child, and it can create. I'll kind of describe the extremes. On the one extreme, when you're raised by narcissistic parents, you could feel as though uh, you've got to please them at every point because now you're their supply. You've got to jump around and do what they do and look how they want you to look and have the career that they want you to have. And it just becomes kind of like a slavery system to them. But because, of course, you want to be the good girl or the good boy or the pleaser of the parents, and you want to get the reward of their love, you'll do anything not to be disconnected from. The problem is there are parents out there, unfortunately, who don't know how to connect. And if they don't know how to connect, it leaves the person feeling very alone, very abandoned, very vulnerable, and it could also leave the person feeling so hurt, so vulnerable that they start shutting down and thickening their defensive walls. And when this happens, they're building, in essence, now they're building this tower of narcissistic defense around themselves because now they've concluded that if you can't beat them, join them, become one of them, and just make a decision in there that people are not that great. They're good to be used. They're good for supply. They're nice to have sex with. They're nice to have dinner with. They're nice to do things with, as opposed to be with. But the concept of interconnection and synergy and vulnerability, it's just not in the cards. So this makes for a really, really painful dynamic for both people because one person feels very shut out and very alone, and they keep offering up their goodies, and the other person is taking and taking and taking. And then eventually that giver person will bleed out and they'll get weaker and weaker and their goals will be ignored and their life will be ignored, and the other person is therefore thinking that they're being fed by all of this and their grandiosity is increasing and being reinforced, and then they break all the rules and do what the Freud that they want, including anything, cheating, hiding money, gambling, whatever they want, the amount of acting out when one is in this grandiose state can be extremely destructive. And sometimes they're so good at having this second life, so to speak, that the other doesn't even know what's hitting them or what's happening. All they know is that they're not living their life, their goals are not met, their needs are not met, they're not empathized with. And then when we do the couples work, lo and behold, we discover that they've replicated the very dynamics in the marriage that occur in childhood. And so it's really quite something to see how two people act out on each other and, in essence, choose each other to play out these roles of mommy damages and daddy damages on both ends. And it's sort of like a pagan groove kind of thing where one is self-fulfilling, the other is self-fulfilling, and then as a result of it, they're destroying. So once they're able to step out of the system and start to see that this house of cards was doomed to fall, that this setup was groomed before they even got married, that this was meant to break down. And the breakdown is an important part of the breakthrough because sometimes you do have to break down. Alcoholics have to bottom out to break down, and cigarette smokers. I used to do a lot of work with smokers. Sometimes smokers had to get to the point where they could barely breathe, or they were warned by their doctor that if they don't stop smoking, they're going to their heart is going to give out, or they already see emphysema developing in the lungs. And, sometimes that's not even enough. And interestingly enough, I find that when people have a lot of these narcissistic defenses at their fingertips, if they're young and good looking and wealthy and they have great position in life, then it sort of stokes their narcissism. Okay. And these stokings just keep building this sense of false self, because underneath this, the smoke and like the smoke and mirrors, or underneath this facade of narcissistic defenses, is a very injured person who truly feels alone, who truly feels cut out, who truly feels like they've given up on humanity, who just they're not get the end game is a zero sum game. That's it. It's a zero sum game. Nobody really wins. The narcissist looks like they're winning, but they're just feeling as empty and lonely. And all of these hole in the soul fillers don't do a damn bit of good, because, when you have a hole in the soul, it's kind of like pouring water into a cup that has a hole in it and it's never filled. And then the other person is groomed to keep filling and filling and filling. So it's sort of like Sisyphus, the Greek myth where Sisyphus is pushing the rock up the hill. And every time the rock gets pushed up the hill, it keeps sliding back down again. And so it's this never ending kind of a thing of they're pushing and they're getting nowhere. So both of them are really getting nowhere. And there's just absolutely no light in this relationship. So if you look at the narcissistic defenses and the walls, they look very interesting, because the outer layer can look thickly surrounded. Think of a fortress. So the outer layer is that they're deceiving in some form. They're lying because they want to keep everything out. They don't want the truth to be known. And then the demeaning and the devaluing and the destroying is to kind of push the other person away, so that they're not questioning that destroyer. They're more questioning themselves, because the best defense is offense. So if you want to push the person away from looking at you, just turn the finger and point it at them, and then they'll start to maybe question themselves. And that's just a very, very typical tactic. It's sort of like a gaslighting technique where they'll make you feel crazy, because they'll make you feel as though there's something wrong with your mind. So all of this hiding and the cheating, and cheating doesn't necessarily only mean sexually cheating. It could be hiding money, or becoming a workaholic and being addicted to your work, or being addicted to a drug, anything that takes the attention away from the marriage and kills intimacy. Okay. And so this killing off of the intimacy puts this wall between the couple, and then there's never really a spark of connection. And so what we're doing here in the mind map system is we're healing human disconnect. If you notice, that is the title of my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, because wherever we are disconnected from, and by the way, the PDF is free, and you can always order it off of Amazon.com if you want an actual copy of it. So at the core of this, this gaslighting thing I want to get into a little bit more is, in order to get the person away from questioning the narcissist defense, they start questioning their own sanity. And this is a very typical thing that children do. It's something that Dr. Alice Miller pointed out, which is that the child would rather be the good one they would rather that the other be the good one and that they be the bad one, because then it would be horrible to be married to a horrible person, or it would be horrible to have horrible parents. So this way, if they're bad, then at least they could do something about it, like please more or behave better or become prettier or something. There's always something that they feel that they need to do to please the other person because that's how they've been groomed. What's very interesting to me is when you look at the blueprint of the mother and the father on both sides, then you'll see that sometimes at the core of it, both people feel the same way. At the core of it, there's a sense of not good enough or not wanted or not feeling that the other person um, has their back, or this lack of safety. It's just that the narcissist defense is a very shut down defense. It's kind of like, let's rip my heart out so I don't feel anymore. Let's just use people as objects so I don't have to be hurt by them anymore. And let's play a game called control and manipulation. Whereas the other person, the more the people pleaser, looser, boundaried person, plays another game of life because he or she will be the people pleaser person, typically the one bending over backward, the one imploding. So usually you've got one exploding, the other one imploding, and both are feeling rather hollow inside on some level. And that's because both of them cannot turn to mommy, they cannot turn to daddy, they cannot turn inward because the inside of a person hasn't been formed in these childhood years. And so they're in this, what I refer to as a double dungeon of darkness. So, why are people in this double dungeon of darkness? Because going back to John Bowlby, Dr. John Bowlby, and Dr. Mary Ainsworth, who did a lot of work on attachment theory, they came up with how important it is to have secure attachment. When you don't have consistency, when you don't have mirroring, when you don't have attunement, when you don't have a sense of connection with your baby, it really is going to affect their psyche. So, what's the antidote to all of this? What's the antidote to human disconnect? Is stay home with your children, look them in the eyes, soothe them when they're needing to be soothed, put their feelings before yours. Of course, that doesn't mean don't take a break and don't have alone time. That is not what I mean. It's just that these first few years of development, first 2, 3 years of life, we need the presence, we need the being of the mother, of the father, of the family structure has to be there. And these parents, whether they be parents who are stay-at-home parents or not stay-at-home parents, it's important that for the first few years of life that at least one person stays at home so that the person gets some kind of a regular uh, uh, I'll call it forming of object constancy, kind of an attachment. And by object constancy, I mean that babies don't know that mommy's coming back. They don't have uh, the 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 cognition to know that if mom or dad disappears, that they're going to be returning. And so when parents just disappear and they don't come back for a long time, it's very confusing to the child, and there's no consistency and regularity. And that's what really need when we are developing. Uh, I think that of all the mammals on the planet, we need the most developmental time in years with our attachment figures. That's because we have high intelligence, we're sensitive, and we've got to develop the EQ, we've got to develop this secure attachment in order for us to be able to self-soothe, nourish ourselves, regulate, and then become separated and individuated, as Dr. Marie Bowen, systems thinker, says. He's the one who came up with this multi-generational transmission process. And he said that if we don't heal on an individual level, then each generation is going to break down more and more, because we're going to be leaving our children less and less. And they won't be able to have bandwidth to sustain and take the pressures of life. And so when all of these life pressures start bearing down on us, if we don't have this consistency and nurturing and inner development of the self, then we just simply break down. And we just cannot um, uh, manage our emotions. And then, it's a loop through. If we can't manage our emotions, then we'll get on some kind of drug or medication, alcohol, or we'll stuff food in our mouths, or we'll play on the computer, or we'll cheat, or we'll play video games all day, or something to fill the hole in the soul. And that's not very connecting. So now we're replicating human disconnect all over again, and it's just breakdown after breakdown. And if there are any calls or questions, I'm happy to take them and mind map divorce prevention, because it's so important that you not buy into all of this encoding that you psycho-inherited from your parents. There is really a way out of this mess. And with patience and time and couples counseling via the mind map system, which gets down to the root cause, there really is a pathway out of it. And it's not just developing communication skills. It's not just changing cognitions. It's not just apologizing to each other, because apologizing is not a cure. It's not a heal. It's just it's a good thing, of course, to say, I'm sorry. However, I'm sorry is not enough. I'm sorry without going deeply and making those paradigm shifts and shifting out of the old way of being is not going to create a new way of being and a new way of interfacing with your partner. Because I'm sorry, it's just not curative. So with that said, if there are any calls, I'd love to talk to you. It's always more fun for me to talk to you than it is to talk to the airwaves. And so please do call in. And it's astounding how much people have to be in this stuff, or how long they have to be in this double dungeon of darkness until they just can't stand it anymore. And when they can't stand it anymore, sometimes they just go their own ways, and sometimes they feel that they've got to try a last-ditched effort. So if you're on the brink of divorce, if you're on the brink of a relationship breakdown, then please give us the opportunity to step in and to help sort this through. Because remember, the breakdown that you're going through was already pre-programmed at the blueprint causal level. And so whatever you guys are playing out with each other is not your authentic self. It's a reaction to a reaction to a reaction to a reaction. And then to make matters worse, you get in a relationship just with the herder, just with the trigger, just exactly with the person who's going to make all of these emotional files rise to the top and trigger the heck out of you and break you down so that you can barely breathe, or wall you up so tight that you never want to interface with another human being again. So I hope you are all getting the system gone wrong, and how important it is that two people be in the same system of healing at the same time. And I'll tell you what generally happens is when one comes in for healing and the other does not, I warn people that it might create a rift in the marriage because uh, essentially the healthier one person gets in the relationship, the more unhealthy the system is going to look. And the less tolerant they're going to be of acting in behaviors or acting out behaviors or being narsed out and ignored and devalued and demeaned. This is going to become absolutely unacceptable. And of course, the unacceptable things are going to become radically unacceptable, like cheating or using drugs to the destruction of a relationship and so on. And so, warning to everybody, if you're in a relationship and you want to preserve the relationship, please show up together. Okay, that'd be very, very helpful. And then take the time to 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 strap on your psychological seatbelts, so to speak, so that we can do the work, and you can hand over to us the thinking through and the connecting the dots and the patterns and yes, to decoding these horrible core beliefs that have ruled you, and these horrible core beliefs that act as levers and triggers that then take you down the tubes. And so it is very, very difficult again when one heals and the other doesn't. And the healed one um, just probably won't hang on very long. And it's just a matter of time before the family splits. And it would be so much better to give that last ditched effort toward the relationship. I would love to hear from you. Please do call in, and then we can apply what I'm talking about to your life. So, who out there is on the brink of a breakup, on the brink of a divorce, or maybe not on the brink of, but maybe who out there is activating each other? I want to hear your life's patterns, and we can mind map it together. And we have time to do that. So please call in. That number is 323-524-2599. And for those of you who would like to avail yourself of a free 15-minute consultation, please call in if you don't feel comfortable being live on air. I understand if you want to ask a question in the chat room, um, I'll take a question from the chat room. And I know how vulnerable it is to get on the couch with your emotions and your vulnerabilities. It's not always pleasant, and you're always welcome to use another name if you don't want to say your name. That's fine too. And please do understand the importance of showing up as a couple and doing the individual work woven in with couples work, so that you can begin to identify patterns and connect the dots and see who's being the mommy trigger or the daddy trigger and how that all works, because it's really, really important to see that sometimes these emotions are very, very strong and are very, very um, deep triggers when, for example, when let's say one partner's mother treated them a certain way and then their spouse treats them the exact same way. Ouch. That's big time ouch, especially in big categories around abandonment. So you can see it unravel in the treatment room. It's quite beautiful, actually. I know that I keep referring to it as such hard work, and it is. It's just that it's so unbelievably rewarding. And it's so unbelievably rewarding when people start having these aha experiences, and when they start shifting from me to a we. And that takes a lot of unraveling and a lot of connecting the dots, because, in essence, where most of us live is in panel number 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, and that's it. And there's your breakdown. And if you don't have a breakthrough, or you don't have a breakthrough or some sort of a healthy family structure, then you're doing the spin cycle of what the Freud, where you're activating the wound and then you're having a reaction and then you're activating your negative core beliefs and you're breaking down in all kinds of chaos, and then you're defending yourself, and then at the end of the game, it's a big breakdown, and I'm not only talking about a divorce breakdown, but sometimes a breakdown is so severe people end up in crisis, and you could see this coming out of their body. You could see this destruction just in all areas of life, financial breakdown and spiritual breakdown and family breakdown, and then breakdown between their children, and it's just goes on and on and on. So I'm assuming there are no questions in the chat room, correct?
I do have a question here from someone.
Sure.
It says, I'm married and my spouse has these mood swings where everything is fine, and then the next minute life is in chaos and not fulfilling my, or not mine, his, the spouse's dreams. And so it sounds like there's like, I don't know if there's like a I wouldn't diagnose it myself, but it seems like there's like a battle within that person of 1 minute life is perfect, and the next minute, and it's causing stress between the two.
Okay, so
And then you also have a call just came in.
okay, I'll quickly say that it's got to do with splitting the black and white thinking, and then I'll take the call, and maybe I can explain more about that in the context of the call as well. So, hi, thank you so much for calling in.
Hello,
Hi, thank you very much for calling in. And what is your name, please? You can use a fake
Christy.
name if you want. What's your name?
Christy.
Christy. Nice to meet you. So, tell me what the Freud is going on in your life, your relationships, and how do you relate to the topic?
Oh, okay. So, I think that through both my family of origin and my ex, well, he's my ex-husband now,
Okay.
because I couldn't take anymore.
Yeah.
But anyways, but I think that if people can understand, I think that he has, his family of origin similar to what mine was.
Okay.
Um, so, anyways, we both have narcissism in our background,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to. I've been trying to make sure that I'm doing things properly, and I want our children to come out of this okay.
Sure.
However, and I did go to, we did go to couples counseling before I ended up filing for divorce, but I couldn't take it anymore because my husband would not, he refused to tell the truth during counseling.
Okay.
Um, anyways, it got very bad and very nasty quickly.
It, you mean it decompensated very badly and quickly, the marriage at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it was like we went from counseling. I thought everything was going to be good, and it just spun into chaos very, very fast. And I guess it's typical for somebody that has high narcissistic traits to try to win over the therapist.
Yeah, it
And
is. And I think most of you who've listened to me long enough know my stance on traditional therapy. I'm not a fan because traditional therapy is very technique-ish and they're just not going deep enough. I'm just wondering if your counselor went down to the root cause and the wounds of childhood and the patterns, and did any of that work with you too?
not really. Well, see, it's interesting because my husband had gone to an Every Man's Battle conference, and he was trying to make himself look like the good guy. And
Yeah,
he was doing everything to save our marriage. Well, see, our counselor was one of the leaders at that conference.
I
And
see.
my ex-husband, he knew it. And so he was going there to further his story.
Got it. Very clever.
It was a
These are
disaster.
all parts
It
of
was a disaster.
Mhm. All parts of the defense mechanism. And so we at the Psychological Healing Center, we don't go in that direction. Okay. We really,
Okay.
that wouldn't really occur here because what we're doing is instead of focusing on what you did and oh you know you tried so hard and oh look at me, I went to this seminar and look at you, you're not trying, you know, that conversation is not all that relevant to the work of the mind map. Understood?
Right. Right. No, I understand.
And so sometimes you literally, that's why, you know, I refer to my map as the yellow brick road to healing, because you've got to have a pathway. You can't just sit there and talk to people, because people will go into what they know best. Either they'll shut down or they'll try to look good or please the counselor or therapist or paint a pretty image. And you know, there's a type of narcissism that people are talking about more, called altruistic narcissists, and I come across them quite often because you know they show up in the healing profession quite a bit because altruistic, right? It's just that they're narcissistic because their agenda is not really connected to anything more. I mean, the foreground is look how great I am, look how great I can heal people. Okay, look at me, look at me.
Sure.
And I see it in religion where people want to become the top of the, you know, the best of the best in their congregation, or you know, wherever people want to shine. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that if you neglect your family in the process, right? And if you're leaving dead bodies behind you, and you're not really a good individual, and you lie and cheat and distort and discard people, well then, you know, you can get away with looking good, but at the end, it just all breaks down anyway. So, you know, I'm really sorry that we didn't know each other before. I would have loved to have had a chance to save your marriage. You have children, yes?
Yes.
And, you know, some marriages cannot be saved because it's just too far gone. I get that. And you had to do what you had to do. And your question was, what can you do to be a better blueprint for your children? Yes?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so one thing is that you've role modeled to them already that you're not going to tolerate poor behavior. And part of that is leaving somebody that treated you poorly. Okay, so they see that you're not going to put up with that. You know, of course, it would have been great if we could have intervened, but okay, so now they know mommy's not going to put up with any horrible behavior. In the case, how old are your children?
Oh gosh. 31, 23, and 20.
Okay, all right.
So they're not little. They're adults.
Grown children. Okay, so what do you do with grown children? Okay, so grown children, they're grown, so they're not really gonna access you as much because they're busy. They're doing their own thing.
Well,
Or they're always
um,
going to be watching you, you know. And if you lead a healthy life, they're going to be watching that. And if you set appropriate limits with them, they're going to be seeing that. And if you're taking up really healthy lifestyle, they're going to see that. Okay. And if they know that you're safe to come to, if they know that they could talk to you, if you are a parent, this is the most important part, I think, of being a healing parent, is being able to own your own stuff. That's huge.
Sure.
Okay, so if you can do that, it's a lifesaver. If your children can come to you and say, you know, Mom, you really hurt me, and you did this and this and this, and you can say, you know, in honesty and with empathy, wow, I didn't know that that hurt you so deeply. And then just let them talk it through and let them access their anger if they want to, and let them access their disappointment in you. Okay, and you don't have to sit there and defend it. You could just say, wow, you know, I'm glad that today I'm safe enough for you to talk to about those things. And you know, it's sad that I didn't know more then, and what can I do now to make it better? And if you're that kind of parent, that's a lifesaver.
Well, during the divorce, my ex hired a forensic psychiatrist to have me diagnosed as a dangerous narcissist.
Okay.
So they're now all afraid of me.
Oh, okay. So
no, it was a mess. But I have other people that had diagnosed me as complex trauma because of all the things he was doing to try to make me crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So look, I don't know who diagnosed you. I have no idea on what basis. It's only you that can now self-reflect and say, well, did I put my own feelings before my children? Did I demean, devalue, destroy anybody? Did I gaslight people? You know, and we all have some narcissistic traits. It's just that if we're healthy enough, then we want to work on ourselves. So we want to cure and unravel all that garbage that that we've encoded into our life. And if your children see that you're working on, are they talking to you at all?
I only have contact with one of them now. Okay. My ex had one of them he used one of them to have me arrested to try to lock me up in a psych ward, and then
I'm really...
it was like a terrible experience.
That's so horrible. And you know, I have no idea what happened here. But sometimes what happens is that parents will use children as flying monkeys against the other parent. Okay, and it's a very painful experience because now you've got mommy dearest or daddy dearest hurting you, and then you've got your husband hurting you, and then you've got your children who are now replicating their patterning, okay, and turning against you. It's a very, very horrible thing. I'm sorry that you're going through it. The son is this a son that is talking to you?
It's my youngest daughter.
Your youngest daughter is talking to you?
She's now living with her dad, though.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Because he love bombed her with a new vehicle and a new townhome.
Okay, so look, the game for the narcissist is to do and gift and love bomb, and you know, that's their weaponry. Okay, the game of the healthier people, and I didn't even get into it, but I will for a few minutes here, is panel number 789, which is synergy, vulnerability. It's the paradigm shift. It's where people interconnect rather than a clash. Okay, do you see the light between the bubbles? Unfortunately, most people are not in relationships that are synergistic. They're more like panel number 6, where you're clashing and destroying. So it seems like if you could be that person that can offer synergy to your daughter and sit with her and also acknowledge the fact that her bread is buttered on the side of your husband. Is she financially tied to him?
He's basically trying to financially strangle her, which is what he was doing to me before I got out.
Okay. Okay. So look, you don't have to bash him because then she's going to get defensive,
No, no, no.
right?
Yeah, no, he has his own traumas too. He
Yes,
just doesn't know it.
right. Because you see, he's probably more defended. And so he's so good that he could even hide his horrible negative core belief from himself, which is why he feels his
Hmm.
in the soul. Okay. And so
Right.
all you can do is be a great role model for your daughter as best as you know how. Listen to her, ask her how she's doing, put her feelings before yours. Especially the little time that you do get to spend with her, and then over time, hopefully, she will have a life, and hopefully, she'll get treatment at some point and sort things through, and then have a clearer lens of perception on what happened and where she stands with everything. And I'm hoping that she does do some of her, that all your children do some healing, even your ex-husband. And again, it's very hard for narcissistically shelled off people to go into treatment because they've been very, very busy putting these layers of defensiveness around themselves, and they just don't want to let the walls down. So that's what's going on. Okay. And so because they're
Exactly.
not playing the vulnerability game, they're just gonna gift and make nice life for the people, the children, new car, new this, new that, and vacations. And that's how they think that they're going to win the game. But you know in thinking about it, and even with couples who come through this journey, if they have a choice between filling the hole in the soul and really getting human connection and nourishment, I actually asked one of my patients who's quite addicted to a lot of things, and I said, okay, if we've got cocaine on the table and we've got vodka here, we've got mushrooms here, we've got this here, and sex toys there, and all kinds of opportunities for whatever pleasures, and then you also have the choice of a real deep soul to soul human connection, and he picked the soul to soul human connection because most people have not experienced that, and they don't know what it is, and they don't know how to get that in life. And that's where we're heading in this breakdown. Is we're heading into a breakthrough where people can, for maybe for the first time in their life, feel a true authentic connection to themselves, primarily starting with themselves and then to another human being. And to answer the question of the person who asked, why is my spouse or significant other up and down? Because they don't have a sense of object constancy. So that's called splitting. So it's extreme. I feel great because this happened, and then something triggered me and let me down. They don't have that they don't have that ability to soothe. They don't have that secure attachment that builds a kind of a foundation of, okay, things are up and things are down, but in the big picture, I'll be okay. So I hope that helped explain things to you, Christy.
Oh yes, I'm grateful.
My pleasure. Okay, so just wait for your daughter to launch out of the daddy pad, so to speak. Okay, and then she'll probably, hopefully, with all the information out there, you could even send her a PDF copy of my book if you want. Why not? She could
Okay.
start
Yes,
reading.
I mean, we need to heal this world.
No, we really do. Now we've got big macro problems because we're breaking down so badly. And my mission to myself was healing global disconnect. Join the human race. For those of you who are interested, I have a website called healingglobalDisconnect.com. It's not a very developed website, but my mission statement is up there. And that was the whole reason for the mind map. However, now I realize that we've got to heal individually before we heal globally. So that's our job. We all have to do it, because if we don't, we're going to project all our pain on other people, and we're just going to be one big trigger happy world and just continue to break down. And I'd like to see everyone take responsibility, own your own stuff, start healing your own wounds. And so let's start there. So I really appreciate you calling in. And remember, please request free consultation, PDF, and you can purchase the Mind Map video series. And I would love to see you here at the Psychological Healing Center. And if you need more work, Christy, please reach out to me, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, my pleasure. Take care.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Good night. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we have a wonderful staff here of people who know the mind map system, because I taught it to them. And the mind map system is a very specifically organized journey from the encodings of the past and dismantling them and breaking through into healing and synergy and a new game of life. And couples, if you're out there on the brink of a divorce, a breakup, please reach out and give us an opportunity to heal this system gone wrong, which you did not create, and you don't need to keep co-creating in your relationship. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Good night. And if you've enjoyed my show, please subscribe to my channel. If you need help, please call the number below. And if you